get a new camera, the first thing you want to do is go out and play with it. You don't want to spend all this time like doing research, figuring out the menu system and how you customize everything. You just want to go out and play. In the meantime, maybe a couple pointers might just be helpful to get you out the door. Hey, what's up guys? In today's video, I'm just going to do a brief overview on setting up the Leica M11. As a long-term user of the Leica M11, in fact, I've had this camera system since June of 2022, so that's 3 years of working with it. It's just a basic setup of how to get you out the door and start shooting. And so let's see what we got to work with here. Let's set up the custom buttons first. The M11 and its variants have 3 different customizable buttons, which is great. That's one more than the M10 had. And this is actually where a lot of photographers may disagree, and that's fine. No worries about that if your setup is different than mine. It's nice that such a minimalist camera can actually have so many different custom configurations for each photographer. But let me walk you through what I've done here. First things first, let's start with the thumb well wheel. That is the button that is behind where your thumb would rest on the back of the camera. And pressing down on this firmly for just a couple seconds will bring up that menu and all the options that you can program this for. Now what I've done is I've set this function for exposure compensation, or for EV. Okay, so this is a wheel and a button, right? And I love that Leica added this feature. On the M10, it used to just be a wheel. So now that we have this added feature, you can still through the menu system adjust this to be, or to adjust exposure compensation, right? So whether or not you push the button in, if the wheel is moved, it would adjust your exposure compensation. Don't use that feature. Otherwise, if the wheel's just active for exposure compensation and you've got the camera on and it's up against your body, it's on a shoulder, and you're walking around, it's gonna brush up against your clothing and you'll inadvertently adjust the exposure compensation and it's just gonna throw you off. I also use aperture priority quite a bit. In fact, probably at least 50% or more of the time, I'm setting aperture priority on this camera. Okay, second custom button we'll cover is the one on top next to the shutter release. Press and hold that for a couple seconds, it'll bring up your options. I have this set to drive mode, and certainly you can access this on the menu. I just generally don't want to go there or touch the menu button to get into it. I want to quickly adjust between how my shutter is going to respond. Maybe there's a fast moving scene and you want to be able to work quickly. I might put this on multi-fast mode, but then I want to quickly go back to single frame mode on the camera. So rather than diving into the menu system, my ethos is trying to work with this camera with the buttons and the controls that are on the outside of the camera rather than dive into the menu system. So it only seems natural for me to keep that setting on this button because it's so close to the shutter release. It just made sense to me. One more button to cover here. We've got the function or FN button on the back of the camera. Press and hold that down for a couple seconds. It's going to bring up your options. I have this set to live view. I've left it that way. There's other ways certainly to get to live view, but because I've used the other function buttons for things that I think are most important, I've left it this way. Now I shoot using my rangefinder about 90% of the time, but occasionally I still will need a live view, whether maybe I'm doing something where I can't get my face to the rangefinder, the camera is too low or too high, it's on a tripod. Maybe I'm using like my 21mm Super Elmar, so live view comes into play. All right, let's talk about the menu. There's one key setting that I find super helpful, and I'm going to cover that in just a little bit. Let's go over a couple of menu settings that you should just go with from the start. Some of these will be accessible from that top menu button. Some of them will require you to dig in just a little bit further into the system. Shutter type. So this camera has a mechanical shutter, but it also has an electronic shutter feature, which is, I'm sorry, Leica, horrible. I don't use it for anything. I know that there are uses for it, but I find them seldom, and for my type of photography, at least I would never use it. What I'll do is set the shutter type to mechanical. Don't touch hybrid, full stop, just mechanical. White balance. Auto white balance is not your friend. Set this for daylight white balance. It'll make your batch editing so much easier. You're shooting in RAW most of the time anyways, so you can always make the adjustments in post. Auto review. On the menu button, if you click down to the second page, at the bottom of second page has the auto review options. You can turn it off. 1 second, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, permanent, turn it off. I mean, come on. You can hit play later to check occasionally on your exposures, but you bought a rangefinder and you're here to make photos and be present. Don't be spending your time on the back of the camera reviewing the screen all the time. It'll also save your battery, and it'll help you to learn how to pre-visualize and work with your camera. So when you first hit the menu button, as I mentioned, it's got the display with all the icons on just about anything you would want to adjust on the camera on the fly. Pressing the menu button one more time will get you to your favorites if you have favorites set. I would suggest using favorites because it's a great time saver. For me, I have one specific setting that I add to there, and that's my JPEG settings. To do this, hit the menu button, get to page 3, and at the bottom of page 3, you can go to Customize Control and edit favorites. By selecting favorites, you can choose what you want to have in your favorites button. For me, I have JPEG settings, and that is it. So when I hit the menu once, it turns on the icons. The second button will just simply give me JPEG settings. Now there's other settings in the favorites, but that Leica has that baked in. They're really pushing, at least for the M11P, the Leica content credentials. I really want to keep this menu simple, but JPEG settings is the one thing that I do adjust quite a bit on the fly. All right, so here's the trick I want to share. You can adjust the JPEG settings in this camera. I shoot RAW most of the time with this camera. I'm going to mention something about that in a second here too. With the RAW setting, you're still going to get color, you're going to get all the information you want, but I can set the JPEG setting to high contrast black and white. And that affects the live view and the review on the back of the LCD screen. So even if I'm seeing this image in color, I'm using black and white, usually high contrast, to review the images and get that feedback because it gives me structure and removes the distraction of color. So I use red for focus peaking. So in live view, with the focus peaking set to red and the JPEG settings in black and white, it's pretty simple when you do use that feature. So I don't really love the lack of JPEG control in the Leica M system, at least. And I'm not trying to knock Leica. This is my favorite camera ever. I mean, I use this is my camera system. I just wish there was more control in the JPEG. So unless I'm doing a specific exercise, as I mentioned, I'm gonna shoot in RAW predominantly and then just adjust in post. A couple of housekeeping notes. So I am doing a video every other Wednesday. So if you do like the content, please hit the subscribe. I'd love a thumbs up. Let me know how I'm doing. Also, I'm doing only 2 photography workshops this year. One is coming up in July in San Francisco. It's a one-day workshop. I've got a phenomenal professional ballet dancer. We're going to be working on some form and figure and how music affects composition and narrative in working with a professional dancer. The second workshop I'm offering is more of a retreat. I think this is more of like a photo walk and adventure, and it's a 5-day, we'll call this a photo retreat in France. This will be near the south of France in a region called Rodez. It's the most photogenic, authentic region of France, and I am so excited to be offering this workshop or photo retreat for you this year. This is going to be in September. Wonderful time of year to go. The hosts, Roland and Milena, at the chateau are phenomenal people. I've had a great time getting to know them over the past year and planning this adventure. So if you're thinking about coming to France or you're looking for some kind of adventure, I can't recommend this enough. It's going to be 5 days of just awesomeness. So just check out below. There are links and details to both of these workshops, and I hope that you might be able to join me on either one of them, if not both. That'd be amazing. I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. And until then, stay curious and keep clicking.
You think you tell me enough, you tell me enough.